The first thing I felt was the sting of cold orange soda dripping down my wrist as the cup trembled in my hand, because I had just watched Ilara win, my best friend's older sister, collapse to her knees in the backyard of the bright midday party, clutching something in her hand as if it were the last fragile thread holding her to the world. The sun was high, bold, unforgiving, illuminating every raw emotion on her face while the music from inside continued carelessly, as if it couldn't hear the sound of a heart breaking. In that single moment, I realized she had come here looking for someone, but the pain tightening her expression told me she had instead found the exact memory she'd tried to outrun. Keycap one ripple of love. If you believe in hope, compassion, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps keep these stories alive. I hadn't expected to see her here. Ilara rarely attended daytime gatherings anymore. Everyone knew she used to be bright, solar bright, but after losing her mother last year, she had dimmed in ways no one could explain. There was a quietness in her now, a drifting feeling as though she walked through the world on unsteady ground. I often noticed it whenever I visited my friend Kaylin at their house. She'd walk past with her hair tied loosely and a tired grace in her posture, like someone who once knew how to shine but could no longer justify the effort. But today, something was different. She was dressed better than usual, fitted olive sweater, light denim, hair braided over one shoulder with tiny golden clips that caught the sunlight like sparks. There was intent in her eyes, even beneath the haze of sadness, and although I didn't know why, the moment she stepped into the backyard filled with laughter, something inside me stiffened with the sense that she had come for a purpose. The party itself felt strange in its brightness. Balloons bobbed in the breeze, paper plates bent under the weight of grilled food, and kids darted across the grass with bare feet and sticky fingers. Adults chatted under white canopies while the sun warmed everything into a golden haze. And yet in the corner of all that warmth, Ilara stood alone, scanning the crowd with a focus that looked too deep for such a light-hearted setting. When she finally saw me, something changed in her posture. Her spine straightened. Her breath sharpened. And within seconds she was walking toward me, fast, determined, almost unsettled, and before I could move, she stepped into my space, effectively cornering me between the picnic table and the string of paper lanterns fluttering above us. She said, barely holding her voice steady, that I was the reason she had come tonight. And then her throat closed. Her eyes burned. And she sank to her knees before I could understand what those words meant. The cup slipped from my grasp. For a few seconds the world tilted. I knelt in front of her, letting the warmth of the sun fall across both our faces, and saw that she was clutching a small, creased photo in her hand. It was old, worn at the corners, like something handled too many times. I recognized myself in it immediately. It was a picture from last spring, taken on a day I hadn't known anyone else remembered, when I had stayed after school to help Kaylin fix a broken railing that their mother used to balance her potted plants on. I had been smiling in the photo, genuinely, freely, holding a tray of gardening tools. But what struck me wasn't my expression. It was hers. Ilara had taken the photo. She had captured something long before I realized my presence had mattered. She told me, through breaths that shook like wet paper tearing, that the day she took that picture was the last day her mother ever went outside into the sunlight. She remembered watching how gently I handled the tools, how carefully I arranged the pots afterward, how I talked to her mother without pity, even though everyone else had grown afraid to speak to her, afraid the wrong words would fracture her completely. She said her mother smiled that day because someone reminded her what kindness looked like. And I, confused, overwhelmed, suddenly unsteady, realized that Ilara had not come to find me out of anger or longing or desperation. She had come because she carried a memory she couldn't hold alone anymore. A memory she thought belonged partly to me. The brightness around us began to feel heavy with emotion. The sky looked too big, the sunlight too sharp, every sound too loud. People passed by with plates and drinks, unaware of the quiet storm unfolding at their feet. Ilara finally steadied enough to stand, and when she looked at me, it wasn't with admiration, it was with a vulnerability so raw it felt almost sacred. She said she came tonight because she needed to tell me that her mother spoke about me during her final week. That she had said I was the type of person who didn't realize the footprints they left on the hearts of others. And then she said she was terrified because she felt her own life drifting the way her mother's once had, and she didn't know how to anchor herself. But when she found that photo last night, she realized she wanted to believe in steady things again, and that somehow, without knowing it, I had been one of them. The confession didn't feel romantic. It felt like an unraveling, a human reaching out for something warm in a world that had turned cold. The rest of the party faded into a soft blur. We walked away from the noise, toward the edge of the yard where a row of tall, whispering trees cast gentle shadows over the grass. The midday light filtered through the leaves in delicate patterns, brushing gold across our shoes. Ilara talked about her mother's decline, her guilt, her fear, her sleepless nights replaying words she wished she'd said. I listened. Not because I knew what to say, but because sometimes listening was the closest thing to saving someone. At some point, she asked if it was strange that she felt safer beside me than she had felt with anyone in months. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The slight easing of her shoulders told me she already understood. When I reached out and took the photo from her trembling fingers, she didn't resist. She let me hold the memory she had guarded like a fragile flame. The edges were soft from wear, the image faint from time, but the moment captured in it was clear: sunlight, warmth, a railing fixed, a mother smiling. We stood beneath the trees as a soft breeze moved through the branches, and for the first time in a long while, Ilara's face loosened into something close to peace. Before the final emotional closing scene, please comment below and share what part of the story touched you most. Keycap 2 and near the ending, if this story touched your heart, please support it, your engagement means more than you know. In the final minutes of the afternoon, when the party had quieted into gentle laughter and distant clinking cups, Ilara placed her hand over mine and whispered that she didn't expect anything from me. She just wanted me to know the truth, that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness ripple farther than anyone realizes. And as she stood there, bathed in soft gold light, I realized she wasn't seeking salvation. She was rediscovering the courage to exist fully again. My presence had simply helped her remember that even broken hearts can find their way back to warmth. And so the story ends not with grand romance or dramatic confessions, but with two people standing beneath the gentle afternoon sun, one finding hope again, and the other understanding for the first time how powerful a quiet kindness can be. It is in these simple, fleeting moments of connection that lives shift, wounds breathe, and hearts begin to heal, reminding us that sometimes just being there for someone becomes the light they thought they had lost forever.